Atheist Stephen, pronouns are he, him. Kim Davis in Kentucky wouldn't sign marriage certificates, so they had a substitute. How's that different from giving a disabled person a workaround? So welcome, Stephen. Is that your question, or did you want to amend it a bit?
Oh, my universe. I can't believe I've gotten through on the first try.
Well, you did.
Yes, that's pretty much. I'll have to go buy a lottery ticket. My Christian friend used that example, and I argued vigorously at the time, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, I really don't understand why that workaround was not the same as working around with a disabled person.
So I'm not sure, you're talking about, the Americans with Disabilities Act and having to, in the workplace, accommodate someone's disability?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
I would say the biggest difference is that the accommodation can't be something that prevents you from doing your job. Certifying marriage licenses is a core part of that job. And so saying, that's like a pharmacist who is, Christian Scientist and says, I'm not actually going to prescribe any medication and you have to accommodate me. Well, it's your job to give out medication, fill prescriptions. So if you're not going to do that, I don't know how we can accommodate you. There's also a difference in the fact that, someone who is a government employee is subject to a different standard, essentially, in part because there may not always be someone else to go to. You can't go to a different county, and there may not be another clerk, or I can't remember what her official title was, but the day you go to the courthouse, there may not be anybody else there to do it for you. And that's a problem because that burden can't be placed on to a third party like that. The burden of accommodating her cannot fall on the people who are trying to get services from the government.
Another aspect of this is that while you can't put any undue burdens on people that would violate their religious beliefs, it's not like this is a disability. This is basically her saying, no, I won't do this. It violates my beliefs. And I have this problem with accepting a job and applying for and accepting a job where you are going to be required to do things that you are opposed to, and then just claiming once you got the job or when this changes that you're just not going to do them.
I agree with you. I do want to push back a little bit, not to defend Kim Davis in any way, but she probably did not expect that she would be licensing same-sex marriages when she could take the job.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking when I said that, that's what I would expect her to say is, when I applied. However, you have to expect that, I would say in the modern world, if your job is to sign marriage certificates and that there are states that are, and this is an issue where people want to get these, that it is a foreseeable outcome that marriage certificate is going to need to be signed. But in the end, it's also, I'm wondering, Stephen, I'm not sure that either of us really understand the nature of the question, because if they had a substitute, and that's fine. I have no problem with, if there's two people in an office and she just says, I'm not signing any marriage certificates for same-sex couples, but there's somebody standing right there so that it doesn't represent an inconvenience for anybody. Person two can come over and sign it. And plus, I'm still wondering, why the hell are we signing things? Why on earth does scribbling with ink that you can't necessarily verify that somebody could deny? What is the magical power of this? It should just be like, here's your certificate, and then with whatever seal. But I'm not quite sure what you're getting at, Stephen. And you mentioned that you were talking with a Christian friend of yours, so maybe you can clarify just a bit.
Well, I made all of those same arguments that you guys have just made. I'd like when she goes on vacation, there's going to be a substitute. So, if there is a workaround, why can't and believe me, I object to Kim Davis as much as you guys, but on the other hand, I don't want to be guilty of discrimination myself.
Sure.
And like I say, I just could not. The more I thought about it, the less and less my arguments to my friend that I could defend. I just couldn't see any difference. If we have to, making accommodations for one group, why can't we make accommodations for another group? And that's why it's been a big quandary. That's why I called you.
Yep.
So let me say first, it's been a long time since I've looked at the facts of the Kim Davis matter. So I, all the details are at this point a little fuzzy, and I may get some of the finer points wrong here. But the question is, how is the accommodating happening? At least to my mind, because if the accommodation is, come back tomorrow and we'll have someone else here to help you out, that's a problem. If the accommodation is the government decides we'll spend, the extra money to always have two people present in case anyone objects, and one of them will always be someone who doesn't care. That's a valid accommodation for the government to make. Whether the government agency is required to or should be required to always have someone else on to spend that extra taxpayer money to keep someone willing to do their job around, just so that the person who's only willing to do half their job can be accommodated in that, is problematic to my mind.
Yeah, if you can only afford one employee, the employee that will do the whole fucking job is the one you should hire.
Yes.
But
and that's what. And going back to,
I assume it can. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Steve.
I was just gonna.
I assume that.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, there's delays going on.
Well, I just assume the county office has multiple employees. Like I say, they'd have to cover her when she's on vacation, so we're sick. So, but let's assume that there are always two people on board or in the office, and they can assign the certificate. Then why would that not be acceptable workaround?
It would be
for her.
If there's two people in the office and one of them will do it all and one of them will only do half of it, as long as it is like Jeff was saying, as long as it doesn't provide an inconvenience to other people, like if the person who will do the whole job has a day off and that's the day that somebody can come get their marriage certificate signed, then Kim's going to have to sign it, or otherwise it represents an inconvenience to the people who showed up on that day.
Okay, that's a very good point. Very good point.
And the other thing is, not everybody's can afford multiple employees.
And I don't know what potential accommodations, if any, they offered. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
I think there was a substitute signer. She wouldn't sign it, and they had somebody else that would. But the trivial question is, Matt, love the hell out of you.
Thank you.
Is it offensive for me to call you the Billy Graham of atheism?
Oh, no. I've been called, so my mom thought I was going to be a preacher. Some people think I am, and I've been called an evangelical atheist, and I don't mind it a bit because evangelism is about spreading the good news. And I think that's exactly what I'm doing, of secularism, of skepticism, of humanism. And so, yeah, if you wanted to call me the Billy Graham, at least that's probably better than the Fred Phelps of atheism.
Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Much appreciated. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. And I would avoid the Falwell of atheism because
that's that would although, don't get me wrong, I am not fond of Billy Graham, and while I find his message slightly less distasteful than some others, his message is still distasteful, and he was really pretty awful and was in an incredible position of power. I mean, Fred Phelps didn't spend nearly as much time with presidents as Billy Graham did, and that is something that disturbs me when you have a religious leader who's of any sort, who's spending that much time in meetings with the people who are running the world. There was a reason why people didn't want to elect Kennedy, for fear that the Pope would secretly be running the United States. That was the objection to Catholicism, is if the Pope's in charge of your beliefs. With Protestantism, it's a little easier because you're not necessarily beholden to a minister, but as a Catholic, you are beholden to the Pope.